Good morning, gamers! This is your gamer buddy CRIDZON, and I'll teach you the farming sites of Insanity Flyff. Let's freaking go! Alright, before we start, I just wanted to explain to you what are the items that you need to increase your drop rate from Penya to items. So when we say items, those are, for example, boss drops or red chip drops or CES drops, which I'll be explaining to you in a moment. Let's go first on the Penya drop. The first one that we would need is the golden banana. It actually gives 25% additional Penya drops for 2 hours. The next one is zombie brains, which is 15% Penya drops for 2 hours. Another one is Eye of Ra. Will give you another 15% Penya drop. Don't forget the voters buff. The voters buff can actually be bought using the voter points. This is the voters buff, which actually gives Penya plus 5%. The next one would be the PvE cloak, which actually gives 15% additional Penya drop, or you could actually have it on your dark Oroth cloak, which actually gives 15% as well. And lastly, what we need is the elegant guild house bookshelf, which actually gives 10% Penya drop rate as well. Now let's move on to the drop increase. Let's go to the cloak, which actually gives 1% gift box. So usually it's the gift box. And next will be the elegant guild house carpet, which gives 5% drop additional. Next one would be couple buff. So the couple buff actually gives 5% additional drop rate. Then let's go to the prems. Let's start with the voters buff. So the voters buff gives 5% additional drop chance. And let's go to the Lord's Cheer, which can be bought from the red chip shop. The Lord's Cheer actually gives 10% additional drop rate. And also the pirate rum. Pirate rum is actually crucial when doing boss hunting, but it actually gives gift box plus 2. Next one is the scroll of acquisition high. So acquisition high gives the chance to have 2 drops instead of 1. For example, if it drops 1 red chip, it actually drops 2. Where do we get this? This is actually reward from the daily quest when you finish a daily quest or a weekly quest. If you're not able to finish the daily or weekly quest and you don't have any scroll of acquisition high, no worries, as you can actually use the consumables scroll of acquisition low. Instead of 2, it only gives 1. Now let's move on to the item. If you check out your weapon and if it's crystal plus 4, you should get the gift box effect on your weapon. If you don't have any PvE cloak, as long as you have the 6 parts of the Trinium set, it actually gives you a gift box, as you can see. Also on your guild, you should need to put a gift box crystal, as it would give another 1 gift box effect. And make sure you have the gift box Seraph buff, which gives plus 1 gift box. And lastly, the final touch is joining or creating a party that has fortune drop and party acquisition, which is encourage mobs to drop an extra item. Those are all the farming essential. And now let's move on to the farming sites. Let's start with going to the buff bang, which actually has the teleporter, and you should actually see here farm. Those are the basic ones. So let's go to the Tricia. On Tricia, you actually get a IKEA box here. Aside from red chips and Penyas, you need to have a flying mount to hop on each island. The next one would be Mars Mine. It's actually in the northern part of Flores, where it's 200 to 240. You can actually farm here as well, as it drops red chips and Penya. Alright, the next one would be Azria. It also drops the same. It actually drops red chips and Penya. Let's move on to the next one, which is the Evelys Temple, which is on the southern part of St. Morning. So this is actually the Evelys Temple, which actually drops as well. We can go now to the Decane Mine, which is on the Darken. And if you go inside, there are actually a lot of mobs here, which actually mobs here drops red chips and Penyas. Now we are actually done with the basic ones. Let's go to the ticket farming area. You can buy the tickets by going to the buff bang, and there's the second tab, which is tickets. You have have the Coral Island and the Forgotten Island. Let's go first to the Coral Island. Coral Island has actually have a lot of space here, so you can still farm red chips and Penyas with good amount. And it also drops Narkini's potion box. The next ticket would be the Forgotten Island. The Forgotten Island is the most common one, which is the second to the last farming area for Penyas and red chips. This is the best farming site if you're still starting, because there's a lot of mobs here that you could lure. And the Forgotten Island is actually so spacious that you can actually farm anywhere here. Now let's move on to the last site of the ticket farming area, which is the Shade Reef. The Shade Reef actually gives a lot of Penyas and red chip drops, but how do we go there? So it's either you buy the ticket from players on Saint Morning, or you could actually just get it for free by going to the Buff Bank and get a quest on by pressing dialogue. New quest, Splashy Killer, new Centillion Killer. So we need to kill 300 of both, and what it gives is actually a Shade Rift Orb. So once we have the Shade Rift Orb, we can now transfer there. And this is how the Shade Rift Orb looks like. It has a 1-day expiration, so once we use it, the countdown actually begins. So let's go out here first and go to the Shade Rift, and this is Shade Rift. So the countdown should start. Now you can actually get some quest here from the bubble agent. It gives you motivation, and aside from Penyas and red chips the drops here, it actually gives a certain box where it gives you fashions and prems. So let me give you an example on what's going on here. It gives us a bubble reward and also the remantis as well. So it's important to pick up those remantis. You can actually still sell them as well. You can also go to the other side where the mobs have higher level, if in case you're more than 300. So here is 310, and the mobs here are up until 350. So this is the place where you can farm red chips and Penyas that drops a lot. Now let's move on to the final part of the farming site. One farming site that players tend to go is actually Cove. This is the special dungeon of Insanity. So when you go inside, your aim will be the mobs here. So what are the drops? So the drops is actually CES. So the CES is used to upgrade items, and one run here actually gives you like around 2,000 to 3,000 depending on what are the drop prems that you've been using. And if you have VIP, it goes around to 4,000. How much is 1,000 CES? The price of it is actually around 400 to 450 purins. If you're gonna run this dungeon, once you complete a 2,000 or more, you'll have nearly 1,000 purins or more than 1,000 purins per run here once you sold the CES. And the cooldown is actually 10 hours, but maybe you can actually create few more farmers like Arcanists, like 3 Arcanists in one account, and you can just transfer items. You can transfer your accessories and your fashions. You can actually use Xtel plus 5 items and shield, as well as Xtel plus 5, Crystal plus 5 on your set. There's no problem on that, as it actually works. Now that's actually the farming sites of Insanity Flyff. Hope that helps. Please don't forget to subscribe. See ya, gamers. Peace.